AITAH for telling my family they are never going to be part of me or my son's life. In 2020, I did something horrible to my family by stealing from them to fund my addiction. I stole some electronics including old cell phones, a game console, and a Blu-ray player to buy heroin. I cannot and will not justify these actions and fully accept them as my own and their consequences. I was caught and my family became aware of my addiction. It was hard to see my parents realize what was happening, but the hardest was seeing how heartbroken my 17-year-old little sister was. They dropped me off at a rehab center where I spent 3 months getting detoxed and sober. I did not hear from them while I was in there. I tried calling to let them know how I was, but I never received an answer. The day I got out, I went back home. My family there informed me that they would no longer be considering me a member of the family and that I was to leave the home and not contact any of them for any reason. I attempted to stay with other family, but when I contacted my grandparents, I was told that my parents had called them and several others to tell them that if they kept in contact with me in any capacity, they would cut off contact with them as well. I was able to see how my sister was doing via my mother's Facebook posts, but after liking one, I was messaged and told that I am allowed to look at the posts, but all other family members will be blocking me and I am not to interact with my mother's posts. I was completely destroyed and left on the streets. I stayed in a homeless shelter and got a menial job, enough to get a rundown apartment, and slowly put my life together. I went through therapy to process the extreme grief I felt. I focused on work and did school online enough to finish my degree from when I dropped out at 21. I was able to secure myself a very good position several states away and move there as soon as I could. 3 years ago, I met the woman who is now my wife. Her father went through a similar struggle with addiction, and her family welcomed me with open arms. Last year we got married, and 3 months ago, we welcomed our son into the world. Of course, being a proud new dad, I posted my boy all over social media to show him off to the world. Since then, I've been inundated with calls and messages telling me that my parents want to meet my son. I have no plans to allow that. My family abandoned me at my lowest and actively worked to cut me off from any familial support I could have had. I am not owed forgiveness for my actions, but I can't pretend that what they did was anything less than complete disownment of me at my most vulnerable. I told them, not very politely, that I do not consider them my real family and that they are to come nowhere near me, my wife, our son, or anyone related to us. I've been getting messages daily about how I never earned their love back and am cheating them out of having a son again, and thus I owe this to them, from my parents and others. I am not giving in at all, nor do I ever plan to. AITAH? Edit. There's been a lot of replies along a broad spectrum of opinions and takes. I may not have replied to them all, but I did read them all. For now, I am stepping back. My wife and I have decided that we are going to be speaking with my parents via video call and discussing the past 5 years and where everyone stands as of today to gauge where we all are and decide how to move forward. I'll be taking everything I've read here into consideration in how I decide to approach this situation. I've seen a lot of people wanting updates. I will post an update on this when the dust has settled and I can say with some certainty what's going to be happening. Thank you all for your words of kindness and otherwise. Every one of them is appreciated. Update. A little bit back I posted a thread on this sub. I want to thank everyone for their words, both kind and unkind. I look back on that post and feel like I did not hit the mark in some areas for how I expressed myself and the situation, and so it was interpreted in wildly different ways by different people. I initially wanted to address those, but to be honest, I'm ready to leave this behind, so I'm not going to do that. The only thing I will add clarity to, since it came up several times, my family did not pay for my stay in rehab. I was making less than $20,000 per year, and my employer only offered an HSA for health benefits, so I qualified for Medicaid and had been on that since I moved out of the house. Medicaid in my state pays for the cost of inpatient rehab, and this is how my treatment was funded. For the sake of brevity and so that I don't dwell on it longer than I should, I will briefly run through some relevant context and a short summary what my father expressed to me during our conversation. To add some context that I think explains his mindset, I will give some of my father's history here. He came from China to the US to attend college and fell in love with the country. My father hates China and communism. He saw America as a land where he could have the opportunity to thrive in ways he couldn't in his home country. So he married an American woman and stayed here, starting his own business. My father's dream was that one day, he would pass this business down to his son, then to his grandson, continually passed down as his legacy. He was very much a tiger parent, and my mother, having always been very submissive, followed suit. I'd been told from a young age that this is what my future would be, and my life was curated around it, down to what university I would attend and my major. All of this will give context to my father's position. The call was just me, my wife, and my father. It was a long and awkward conversation, but here is the gist of it. My father regards my bisexuality and my decision to not finish college as direct actions of ungratefulness to his efforts in raising me, and feels that I have not been thankful that he did not take action against me earlier. Me being bisexual still left room to marry a woman and have children, so he did not interfere with it. He could still teach me how to manage the business even if I needed to hire others to help with the physical labor involved with it, so he got past the fact that I dropped out of college. However, it was not the stealing that broke the camel's back to him. It is the fact that I used drugs at all. He was upset that I had stolen from the house. But to him, it was ultimately inconsequential compared to me abusing a substance. The fact that I used drugs at all meant that I could not be trusted with his legacy, and since I could not contribute to the family legacy, it was necessary to cut me out of the family entirely to avoid the shame of having an addict among them. He made it clear that this is how he felt then, and that his feelings have not changed, nor will they ever change, no matter how clean I stay or how successful I become, because I ruined his dream. Despite this, I owe him a debt of gratitude by leaving the family vacant of a son to pass his legacy down to. Now that I have a son of my own, there is potential my father's legacy could be passed down to him. As someone who used drugs, this necessitates him and my mother stepping in to ensure my son is properly raised into the position I was to inherit. I did not get to speak to my mother to ask her about the messages she had sent me. The call ended pretty abruptly when my wife realized that it wasn't a conversation that would go anywhere. I was in a bad spot for the weekend after that Friday night. I cannot express with words how thankful I am that my wife was there to help me stay sane. I am going to spend the rest of my life doing every possible thing I can to be as much of a rock for her as she is for me. Right now, most of that is in the form of taking on any and all housework in addition to doing my part to take care of the baby while her body recovers. As our son grows up, I'll keep finding new ways to let her know how much I appreciate her. As for the future, this is what we've decided. On my part, I'm going to work a lot less. For those wondering, I ended up being a technical writer, and it's a job I'm quite good at. It also pays for us to live very comfortably, even if I go well below a full-time work schedule. When I met my wife, I used work as my distraction. Marco Pierre White was correct when he said work is the best painkiller mankind has ever come up with. However, I don't think this is a healthy way to cope now that I have a child. I've decided I'll use the extra time off of work to attend an extra therapy session every week for more intensive treatment and to help develop some better coping mechanisms that don't involve me working myself into an early grave. As for our son, we have decided that my parents will not be a part of his life for the foreseeable future. We aren't sure what we will tell him, but as he grows up and we see more of his personality, we plan to speak with a counselor who has experience in child psychology to find a way to approach the subject that won't be distressing or confusing for him. A lot of people mention the idea of me taking my wife's name. We floated that for a bit, but ultimately we've decided that we will be choosing a new family name entirely. It feels like more of a fresh start for a new legacy. We aren't sure which name we will go with yet, but we hope to have that done by the end of the year. And honestly, that's pretty much it. There isn't much else to report. I know this update will get a wide range of responses. Sorry to disappoint, but I will not be reading or responding to any of them. I know the man that I've become. I know I am a capable father and loving husband. I know I have a disease that puts me at a disadvantage when it comes to anyone's trust or respect because of my choices in the past, and I know that despite them, I will continue to be the best man I can be for my family. And as much as I appreciate all the responses, I don't need to hear strangers on Reddit praise and condemn me to know that it's true. I'm going to log out of this account after posting this, and I will not be logging back in. Thanks for reading.